Hey everyone, welcome back to POL 702, Advanced Techniques of Political Science Research. This week we're going to move beyond talking about specific data generating processes and different types of models for different political outcomes, but rather talk about important considerations that we have to think about before and after actually fitting our models, okay? So in that sense, the topics that we're going to cover this week they apply to any type of modeling and prediction task and any type of outcome that we've covered so far and any type of modeling technique. Okay. In particular, the topics that we're going to cover and kind of briefly introduce this week are first statistical power, secondly post-stratification, and then third multiple imputation. Okay, and what we're going to do is we will briefly introduce each of those topics, and I will provide you with kind of the basic idea of each of those topics, and then I will give you additional resources and readings if you want to use some of these techniques for your own research. Okay. So let's take a quick look at our schedule for this week and the outline. First, I will talk a little bit about kind of classical power analysis basics and where power analysis is where the basic idea behind power analysis is coming from and how it's usually applied in a classical frequentist perspective. But then we will also talk about kind of the Bayesian critique and specifically also the critique that is mentioned in the Gelman in our required textbook, and I have some additional readings to kind of add some additional details on that, and I'm going to talk about those. I will also present a software package called Declare Design, which makes, in general, power calculations and any type of design calculations prior to running your survey, or starting your data collection a lot easier, because it provides kind of a coherent framework to specify your design and then also explore the statistical properties such as power and so on of this design, in order to be able to decide, okay, how many observations do I need to collect? How large does my data collection have to be in order to, for example, identify a certain effect size and so on? Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit more about that, the Declare Design package, and note that the videos on power analysis and the Declare Design package are actually videos from PolSci 935 that I gave last semester, where we also talked about power analysis. So I'm using those lecture videos for this class as well. Okay. Then the third video that I'm going to upload is on post-stratification. Again, here I'm just going to give you a very brief kind of overview of the basic idea, what the underlying idea of post-stratification is. We're going to look at a quick software example, kind of a simplified example of post-stratification. And depending on the timing in the Q&A session this week, we will talk about that in a little bit more detail as well. And then in the last video, I'm going to talk about multiple imputation. And again, I'm going to just give you a brief overview of the idea. And on Canvas, you'll have some additional introductions for software packages that allow you to easily apply multiple imputation if you want to for your own research project. For example, for your replication, that could be an interesting potential improvement depending on what kind of paper you chose to replicate. For example, taking care of missing data through multiple imputation and checking the robustness of the results could be one interesting avenue to go with your application project. Okay, so those are the videos that I'm going to prepare for this week. Your to-do list, as always, please go through the lecture videos and go through the code on our Studio Cloud that is available. The code itself will mostly focus on this Declare Design example, and we will cover more of the post-stratification and potentially also a little bit of the multiple imputation questions in the Q&A session. Then the required readings in our textbook, of course, are chapter 16 and 17 in regression and other stories. You also have, as you will see on Canvas, a large set of additional readings on power analysis, post-stratification, and imputation. Okay, and the idea here is not that you're required to read all of those papers, but rather depending on what is most useful for your own research project, potentially for your replication or for your dissertation research and so on, or your master thesis. If you want to do a data collection and if you think about doing a power analysis, then definitely take a look at those additional readings. Or if you're thinking about providing estimates beyond the sample that you collected, in order to estimate certain attitudes across regions in the US, then take a look at the post-stratification readings. Or if you have a data set that you're working with and you have a lot of missing cases, or you have problems, potential issues with missingness, then take a look at those readings on imputation. So depending on what your interest is, make sure to kind of read those, or take a look at those additional readings, depending on what is most useful for your application. Okay. And then lastly, of course, assignment 5 is due by the end of this week on April 30th. So make sure to finish that assignment, which is posted on Canvas and RStudio Cloud. Okay. All right, so that's it for the overview. In the next video, we will talk about power analysis, or the basics of power analysis and the critique from a Bayesian perspective.